Hey everybody, Chris Peters here with another scouting report for the 2024 NHL Draft, and today we're focusing on Tri-City Storm forward Trevor Connelly. He's been one of the most talked about prospects in this draft class, not always for the best reasons, which we will get into a little bit later, but he is also one of the more talented forwards in this class, and that is what we'll focus on at the first part of this, because boy, is he an intriguing and exciting talent when you look at the skill alone. And so let's take a look at the numbers that he put up this season in the USHL and internationally, because they are impressive. And I'll tell you what, 52 games played for the Tri-City Storm, 31 goals scored, 47 assists, 78 points. He also had 88 penalty minutes as he had a bit of feisty play, and there's certainly been some talk about that in addition to the skill. But also wanted to focus on internationally because he played in 3 separate tournaments for Team USA at the World Under-18 level. They played at the World Under-18 Championship in the spring, the World Junior A Challenge in the fall, and all the way back in the last summer, he played for the Hlinka Gretzky Cup. And in each of those tournaments, he was one of the top performers and one of the top scorers. So at the World Junior A Challenge, 11 points in just 6 games. At the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, 10 points in just 5 games. And at the World Under-18s, 9 points in 7 games. And also in that World Under-18 Championship, one of the lasting memories, unfortunately for Trevor Connelly, is he took a major penalty at the end of the gold medal game, or with enough time left, and Canada came back and took the gold medal away from Team USA with 3 power play goals. And don't make a mistake about it, that is definitely hanging in the minds of scouts and is a big part of the evaluation of Trevor Connelly. Now, we talked about how he is a very talked about prospect. We'll get into the scouting report in a bit, but let's talk about the things that NHL scouts are talking about. Now, if you've been following Trevor Connelly this year, you know that there have been some off-ice issues that he has had to contend with. NHL teams continue to do their due diligence. Where they're going to start making some of those decisions about whether or not to draft him is A, are those issues behind him? B, are those issues that he faced earlier in his career forgivable? And if they are we willing to have a player with some of these things in his past in our organization? And that is the discussion that is happening across NHL teams. I have talked to multiple NHL teams that said they will not draft Trevor Connelly. They did not have him on their list. He will not be picked. But there are enough teams that take a look at what he does on the ice and where he's going and what he's doing and how he's maturing in order to say, this is a player that we can have. This is a player that we can have in our system. He's not going to be too disruptive, but that is the discussion that teams have to have, and it is not a simple one. And certainly there's the possibility of outside criticism. You have to make sure that everything's clear with ownership, that everybody knows going into picking this player that there are these outstanding issues. But the other thing that comes up is not just the issues away from the ice. It's some of the immature play, some of the poor decisions that he makes on the ice, like in that gold medal game where he took a major penalty for contact to the head and then ended up, Team USA had allowed 3 power play goals on that major penalty. And he, of course, was devastated by that at the end. And it's one of those things that happens. You can't blame him on play, but that was the last impression that Trevor Connelly gave going into the draft. So it's going to be very interesting to see how teams weigh that as well, because there were issues in the USHL this year where he also got ejected or took careless penalties, and that's a concern. But let's get into what the other factor of this, and it seems crass not to acknowledge the off-ice issues, but you also have to look at what he does on the ice, and quite frankly, at his best, Trevor Connelly is a game-changing talent. He does a lot of things that can really help a team win, and he does them very, very well. He's one of the best skaters among forwards in this class. He's one of the better skill players as well. He's got creativity. He gets to the net. He makes plays. He does a lot of things with great hands and really good creative puck handling ability that allows him to create separation. Then he also has that speed factor that can pull away from defenders, can get behind defenders, can be a weapon in transition. There are so many elements of his game where he can change the game. But one of the things I appreciate most about Trevor Connelly's on-ice game is his tenacity away from the puck. He dispossesses opponents of the puck an awful lot. He's got a good stick. He uses strength. He doesn't have a big frame because he's tall and he's lanky, but he still needs to tack on some muscle and weight. But he makes a lot of plays with strength, with leverage, and makes them count. And so that makes him another fascinating trait. It's something that he does well. He can engage physically, he can make plays, and he can also play away from the puck. Those are all important things. NHL teams are going to have to weigh the on-ice component versus some of the concerns about maturity, character, and off-ice issues and make a decision on whether or not he should be a first-round draft pick or if he can be in their organization at all. And as I mentioned, some teams have decided that's not something they're willing to risk. So the ones that are, they could potentially be getting a player that has a lot of value to them down the line, assuming there aren't issues that go forward. Now, Connelly is going to Providence College next year. It's been a very good finishing school for NHL prospects, particularly guys that have strong two-way games. And that is something that should only continue to flourish. And as he gets stronger, he'll be more impactful. But then there's also the element of being more mature, making better decisions on the ice. The other thing that Connelly does that can rub people the wrong way is that he tries to force things a little too much. There's a time and a place to try to make plays, but there have been plenty of instances where passes or the guy's not open or he doesn't have a lane and he kind of tries to take everybody on one-on-one and it just doesn't work. That won't work at the NHL level either. So that's the other thing he's going to have to clean up is making sure that he picks his spots better to take the higher risks with the pucks. When I look at NHL comparable players for Trevor Connelly, and again, this is one of the more challenging players because I think he plays in such a variety of ways, but one guy that really stood out to me as a comparable, I was thinking back to when JT Miller played on the wing, and now with the Vancouver Canucks, of course, he plays just a tremendous forward, and he's got that physical grind to him. He's plays at both ends of the ice, and then he can score, and he's got skill, and he can make plays. And that, to me, as Trevor Connelly gets stronger, he can play that JT Miller style that I think would really help him be an effective NHL player. We're talking about a guy that does have star potential in him. I've seen it plenty of times over the course of the season. It's just a matter of, is everything else, all of these other issues at play, going to prevent him from being picked in the first round? I think he'll be a pick in the 20s in this draft. Possibly maybe could go a little bit earlier, but I think it's more likely he goes somewhere in the 20s, and I think that the team that has him will try to do everything they can to make sure they get the most out of Trevor Connelly. There's enough potential there. They have to make those decisions as they go forward, but it is a fascinating and complicated evaluation, but Trevor Connelly is going to be talked about throughout the rest of this process, and we'll see where he goes on draft day. That's going to do it for this scouting report. Stay tuned for many more on FloHockey.tv and our YouTube page.